The bullet that killed Corporal Jenkins came from nowhere. 1 second, he was checking the corner of the building, his M4 carbine raised and ready finger indexed along the trigger guard. The next second, his head snapped back. His body crumpled to the dust-choked street like a marionette with severed strings. Captain Wyatt Brennan watched it happen from 15 feet away, felt his blood turn to ice. "Sniper!" he screamed, diving behind a demolished concrete wall. "Get to cover now!" The rest of Ranger Team 26 scattered, but they were already in the kill zone. Brennan could see it now with terrible clarity. They had been herded into the street like cattle pushed by small arms fire from the east until they had clustered in the worst possible location. Every approach was covered by elevated firing positions. Every piece of cover was a trap. They were completely exposed. Another crack split the air. Specialist Morrison took a round through the shoulder. The impact spun him like a top. He went down screaming, arterial blood pumping from the wound in rhythmic spurts. Private Davis dragged him behind a burned-out sedan, but Brennan could see the truth written in Morrison's pale face. Arterial hit. Maybe 5 minutes without immediate treatment. Then the enemy opened up with everything they had. A PKM machine gun roared to life from a third-story window. Its heavy 7.62 millimeter rounds chewed through the street like a chainsaw through softwood. Concrete exploded in white puffs. Metal sparked and pinged. The air filled with the angry buzz of bullets searching for flesh. "Contact left, multiple hostiles," Martinez screamed, returning fire with his M4. But his shots were wild, desperate. The kind of shooting that comes from men who know they are about to die. They were pinned down, everyone knew it. Brennan risked a glance around his cover, counted at least 15 enemy fighters in elevated positions. Maybe more. They had the Rangers in a perfect crossfire, every angle covered. This was not a random ambush. This was a carefully planned execution. An RPG streaked across the street, trailing white smoke. It impacted the wall behind Thompson. The blast wave picked him up like a child's toy and slammed him into the ground 10 feet away. He lay motionless, blood streaming from his ears. "Thompson's down," someone yelled. Brennan's mind raced through their options. They could try to fight their way out, but that meant crossing open ground under heavy fire. They could wait for the quick reaction force, but the nearest QRF was 20 minutes away minimum. They would all be dead in 5. They could call for air support, but the close quarters made danger-close strikes impossible. They had no good options, only degrees of bad. "Ranger 26, this is Overlord. Report status over." Brennan pressed himself against the crumbling wall, tried to keep his voice steady as bullets chipped concrete inches from his head. "Overlord 26, we are in heavy contact. Multiple enemy positions. We have 2 casualties, 1 critical. Grid coordinates." The world exploded. The IED had been buried in the street, triggered remotely once the Rangers were clustered together. The blast was massive. Brennan felt it before he heard it. A wall of pressure that squeezed his chest and made his vision go white. Debris rained down. Something hot and sharp grazed his cheek. His ears rang with a high-pitched whine that drowned out everything else. When his vision cleared, he saw Private Williams sprawled in the middle of the street, his uniform smoking, his legs twisted at wrong angles. Davis was trying to crawl toward him. Machine gun fire forced him back. "Williams! Somebody get Williams!" A figure darted from cover. It was Private Garcia, the youngest member of the squad, barely 20 years old. He sprinted toward Williams with complete disregard for the bullet snapping past his head. He almost made it. The enemy sniper's bullet caught Garcia in mid-stride. He tumbled forward, momentum carrying him another 3 feet before he hit the ground and did not move. Brennan felt something break inside him. Garcia, Jenkins, Morrison bleeding out, Thompson unconscious, Williams screaming in the street. This was not combat. This was slaughter. Any station, this is Ranger 26. His voice cracked with desperation. "We are trapped in a kill zone, taking casualties. We need immediate fire support, or we are all dead. Over." Another RPR and another explosion. The burned-out car that Davis and Morrison were hiding behind lurched as the warhead detonated against its far side. Davis emerged from the smoke dragging Morrison, his face a mask of blood and determination. "Martinez!" Brennan yelled. "Covering fire!" Martinez popped up, emptied his magazine at the enemy positions. It would not do much good. They were too far away, too well protected. But it might buy Davis a few seconds. Those seconds cost Martinez his life. The PKM gunner shifted his aim, stitched a line of bullets across Martinez's position. The Ranger jerked once, twice, 3 times as the rounds found him, then collapsed. Brennan's throat constricted. Martinez had been with him for 2 years, 3 deployments together. They had made plans to open a bar when they got out. Now he was gone, killed trying to save someone else. "We do not have 30 minutes, Brennan roared into the radio, answering Overlord's promise of QRF arrival. "We need help now." Around him, his Rangers were dying, 8 men left from a squad of 12, and the enemy was preparing for the final push. He could see them massing in the buildings, moving into assault positions. In less than a minute, they would rush the Ranger position, and it would be over. Brennan thought about his wife, Claire, about his daughter, Madeline, who had just turned 6, about the promise he had made to come home safe. He thought about all the things he would never get to do, all the moments he would miss. He closed his eyes. Then a new voice came over the radio. Female, calm, absolutely confident. "Ranger 26, this is Shadow 17. I have eyes on your position. Count 4 dozen hostiles in elevated positions preparing to assault. I am engaging now. Keep your heads down and trust me." Before Brennan could respond, the world changed. The enemy sniper who had killed Jenkins, positioned in a window on the 4th floor of a building 200 meters away, jerked backward. His head exploded in a red mist. The fighter next to him started to turn, confused, trying to understand what had just happened to his partner. He never figured it out. 3 seconds later, a second shot took him in the throat, severing his spine, dropping him instantly. The PKM gunner who had been tearing the Rangers apart suddenly slumped over his weapon. A neat hole punched through his skull. The heavy machine gun went silent. Brennan watched in stunned amazement as the enemy force that had been about to overrun his position began dying with methodical precision. Every 3 to 4 seconds, another fighter fell. Not wounded, killed instantly with surgical accuracy. The shots were coming from somewhere to the west, but Brennan could not see the shooter. All he could see was the devastating effect. An enemy fighter carrying an RPG tried to reposition. He made it exactly 4 steps before a bullet caught him in the chest. The launcher clattered from his dying hands. Another hostile attempted to coordinate the assault, speaking urgently into a radio. The radio fell silent mid-transmission. The coordinator collapsed. A fighter tried to provide covering fire with an AK-47, leaning out from a doorway in short control bursts. Professional. Disciplined. It did not save him. When he leaned out for his 3rd burst, the bullet was waiting for him. The enemy commander, a tall man in tactical gear, directing the assault from a 2nd-story balcony, suddenly realized something was catastrophically wrong. He grabbed a fighter next to him, apparently giving orders to find the sniper. Both men died before the conversation finished, the shots coming so close together they almost sounded like one. 2 militants tried to flee, scrambling down from their rooftop position using a fire escape. The first one took a bullet between the shoulder blades. He fell 3 stories. Brennan heard the impact from 40 meters away. The second fighter froze on the ladder, paralyzed with fear. The next shot ended his indecision permanently. An enemy fighter thought he had found safety behind a concrete pillar. He pressed himself against it, breathing hard, trying to make himself as small as possible. But the shooter had marked him, waited patiently until he shifted his weight, exposing just enough of his torso. The shot was impossibly precise, threading through the narrow gap, finding its target. "Jesus Christ," Davis breathed from his position. Who is that? The enemy force, which had been coordinated and professional just moments before, dissolved into chaos. They were being systematically slaughtered by an invisible killer. Their discipline cracked. Some tried to flee, some tried to hide, some froze in place, too terrified to move. None of it saved them. The shooting continued for another 3 minutes. Brennan counted the shots, 19 in total. 19 enemy fighters eliminated by a single shooter in less than 12 minutes. It was the most devastating display of marksmanship he had ever witnessed. Then, as suddenly as it had started, the shooting stopped. The street was silent except for the moaning of wounded men and the crackle of burning vehicles. Ranger 2-6, this is Shadow 1-7. Immediate threat is neutralized. I am displacing to overwatch your extraction point. Ground QRF will reach you in 23 minutes. You are clear to move your casualties. Brennan found his voice. Shadow 1-7, who are you? What? How did you? There was a pause, then a hint of amusement in the response. Just a woman with a rifle, Captain. Now take care of your wounded. Shadow 1-7 out. The connection went dead. Brennan stared at the radio for a long moment, then looked around at his surviving Rangers. They were all looking back at him with the same expression. Shock, disbelief, overwhelming relief. They had been dead men, finished, done. And then she had appeared out of nowhere and given them a miracle. 4 weeks earlier, Staff Sergeant Kira Vaughn pressed her eye to the scope and let out half a breath. Through the magnified optics, she could see her target 783 meters away. A man-sized steel silhouette standing in the middle of an empty range. Heat shimmer making it waver and dance in the afternoon sun. Wind 3 miles per hour left to right, her spotter said quietly. Humidity 62%. Temperature 94 degrees. You are good to engage. Master Sergeant Garrett McCrae had been calling wind and distance for snipers since before Kira was born. 32 years of service. Gulf War veteran, 3 Bronze Stars. He knew more about long-range shooting than most people would learn in 3 lifetimes. Everyone called him Gray, for the color of his close-cropped hair, for the steel in his eyes, for the granite in his bearing. Kira made minute adjustments to her scope, calculating the ballistics automatically. At this range with these conditions, her 175 grain Sierra Match King bullet would drop approximately 9 feet, drift about 6 inches left. She adjusted her point of aim accordingly, let her breathing slow to almost nothing. The world narrowed to the space between heartbeats. Squeeze. The M110 semi-automatic sniper system bucked against her shoulder. Through the scope, she watched the bullet impact. Center mass on the target, exactly where she had aimed. Hit, Gray confirmed. Dead center, that is 20 for 20 today, Vaughn. You are on fire. Kira safed her weapon and sat up, wiped sweat from her forehead. The range at Fort Benning was brutal in the afternoon heat, but she practiced here every day, muscle memory and repetition. That was what made the impossible shots possible when lives were on the line. Again, she said, settling back into position. Gray shook his head with a grin. You are a machine. You know that most snipers would be happy hitting 20 out of 20 and calling it a day. Most snipers have not seen what happens when you miss. The grin faded from Gray's face. He had been Kira's spotter for 6 months now. Long enough to know that she carried ghosts. Every sniper did. The memory of shots that mattered. Moments when a fraction of an inch meant the difference between a soldier living or dying. All right, he said, checking his instruments. Wind now at 5 miles per hour, quartering from the right, temperature holding steady. Kira adjusted and fired again. Another hit. They continued until sunset, until Kira had put 50 rounds through her rifle and hit 50 targets at ranges varying from 400 to nearly 900 meters. Only then did she clean her weapon and head back to her quarters. The compound was quiet in the evening. Most soldiers were either at chow or relaxing before the night shift began. Kira walked alone, preferring the solitude. At 5 feet 7 and 135 pounds, she did not look like what most people expected from an elite sniper. She had learned to use that to her advantage. People underestimated her right up until the moment she proved them wrong. In her quarters, she field stripped the M110 with practiced efficiency, cleaning each component meticulously. The rifle was more than just a tool. It was an extension of herself, a precision instrument that demanded respect and care. She had made modifications to the trigger assembly, the stock, the scope mounting system, until the weapon was perfectly tailored to her shooting style. A knock on her door interrupted her maintenance routine. Vaughn, you in there? She recognized the voice. Sergeant First Class James Carter, one of the operations NCOs. Come in, Sergeant. Carter entered holding a folder. His expression was serious. Got new tasking for you. Colonel wants to see you at 2100 for a briefing. What is the mission? Above my pay grade. But scuttlebutt is they are pulling you off regular rotations for a special assignment. Carter handed her the folder. This is the pre-brief. You have got 2 hours to review it before you meet the colonel. After he left, Kira opened the folder and began reading. What she found made her pulse quicken with a mixture of anticipation and dread. The northern sector had become a killing ground. Over the past month, 3 Ranger platoons had been ambushed, 15 killed in action, 23 wounded. The enemy was using sophisticated tactics, coordinated attacks, well-placed IEDs, what appeared to be trained snipers of their own. American forces were taking unsustainable casualties. Intelligence suggested the attacks were being coordinated by a former military officer, possibly someone with special operations training. He had organized the various militant factions in the sector into an effective fighting force, systematically targeting American patrols. The folder included after-action reports from the ambushes. Kira read them carefully, noting the patterns. The enemy was good, very good. They understood American tactics and procedures, knew how to exploit weaknesses, had patience, waiting for exactly the right moment to strike. At 2100 hours, she reported to Colonel Thaddeus Garrison's office. He was a lean, gray-haired man in his early 50s, silver star on his chest, 3 combat tours under his belt. He had spent most of his career in special forces. He got straight to the point. Vaughn, you have read the brief. The situation in the north is untenable. We are losing good soldiers to an enemy that is outthinking us at every turn. He pulled up a map on his computer screen. I need someone who can operate independently, who can think like a sniper but fight like a guerrilla. Someone who can find this enemy commander and eliminate him before he kills any more of our people. You want me to hunt him, sir? I want you to be the apex predator in that sector. You will have full tactical autonomy, no restrictions on movement, no requirement to coordinate with ground forces unless you choose to. Your mission is simple. Find the threats, eliminate them. Kira studied the map, her mind already working through the tactical problems. I will need a good spotter, sir. You will have McCrae. I understand you two work well together. What about rules of engagement? Standard ROE, but I am giving you authorization to engage any hostile forces threatening our personnel. If you have positive identification and a clear shot, your weapon is free. Garrison leaned forward. Vaughn, I am not going to lie to you. This is going to be dangerous. You will be operating in hostile territory with minimal support. But you are the best sniper we have in theater, and I believe you can turn this situation around. When do I deploy, sir? Tomorrow at 0600 questions. Kira had dozens of questions, but she knew most of them would be answered in the field. No, sir, I am ready. Good, and Vaughn, bring our people home alive. That is the plan, sir. Shido. The next morning, Kira and Gray loaded into a convoy bound for the northern sector. The drive took 3 hours, most of it through territory that varied from urban sprawl to agricultural land to barren desert. The landscape was deceptively peaceful, but Kira knew that peace was a lie. They were dropped off at Patrol Base Phoenix, a fortified compound that served as the operational hub for Ranger units in the sector. The base commander, Major Fletcher Aldridge, met them at the gate. His expression mixed hope and desperation. Vaughn McCrae, thank God you are here. We lost another patrol yesterday. 2 killed in action, 4 wounded. The Rangers are starting to think this sector is cursed. Show me where the ambushes have been happening, Kira said, following Aldridge to the operations center. The map told a grim story. Red markers indicated ambush sites, clustered along the main patrol routes. Blue markers showed American positions. What struck Kira immediately was the sophistication of the enemy's positioning. They had identified every vulnerable point in the Ranger patrol patterns, exploited them mercilessly. They are watching us, she said, tracing the ambush sites with her finger. They have got observation posts somewhere, with clear views of our patrol routes. That is how they know exactly when and where to hit us. Aldridge nodded. Intelligence thinks the same thing, but we have not been able to locate their OPs. That is because you have been looking in the obvious places. Kira studied the map more carefully, noting the terrain features and lines of sight. They are not using buildings or traditional high ground. They are using positions that give them just enough elevation to see over obstacles, but not so much that they are obvious. Can you find them? Give me 3 days. For the next 72 hours, Kira and Gray conducted what she called terrain reconnaissance, moving through the sector in civilian vehicles, dressed in local clothing, observing patterns, studying the landscape with a sniper's eye. It was painstaking work, required patience and attention to detail. But gradually the pattern emerged. The enemy had established a network of observation posts using natural features. A slight rise in the terrain here, a cluster of trees there, an abandoned water tank that gave just enough height without being obvious. These positions were manned by spotters who would radio warnings when American patrols approached. On the fourth day, Kira was ready to act. She and Gray established a sniper hide in an abandoned building on the outskirts of the city. Arriving well before dawn, the position gave them a clear view of two suspected enemy observation posts, one at 400 meters, another at 570. They settled in to wait. Sniper work was 90% patience and 10% execution. Kira had learned to embrace the waiting, to use it as meditation time. She controlled her breathing, kept her muscles relaxed, maintained absolute focus on the task ahead. At 0647, the first enemy spotter appeared at OP1, male, mid-20s, carrying binoculars and a radio. He moved with military precision, someone with training, not just a random militant. "I have target 1, Kira whispered. Range 403 meters. "Confirmed," Gray replied, his eye pressed to the spotting scope. "Wind 2 miles per hour left to right. Temp is 68 degrees. You are clear." Kira settled the crosshairs on the target. Center mass, adjusted for the minimal wind drift, took up trigger pressure. Her breathing slowed to almost nothing. The world narrowed to the view through her scope. Squeeze. The M110 fired with a suppressed crack. Through her optics, Kira watched the bullet impact. The target jerked and collapsed, dead before he hit the ground. "Hit him," Gray confirmed. "Target down." 6 minutes later, a second spotter appeared at OP2. He lasted exactly as long as it took Kira to calculate the ballistics and squeeze the trigger. They remained in position for another hour, but no one else appeared at the observation posts. Eventually, they packed their gear and displaced to a new location, leaving no evidence they had ever been there. Over the next week, Kira and Gray systematically dismantled the enemy's observation network. 9 enemy spotters eliminated. 9 observation posts rendered useless. The impact was immediate. Ranger patrols reported dramatically reduced contact with enemy forces. Without their intelligence network, the militants could not coordinate effective ambushes. But Kira knew this was only temporary. The enemy would adapt, find new methods, establish new positions, which is why she began planning phase 2 of her operation. Hunting the leadership. Intelligence reports indicated that the enemy commander operated from a compound on the western edge of the city. The compound was well defended, surrounded by high walls, constantly patrolled by armed guards. A direct assault would be suicide. But Kira was not planning a direct assault. She spent 3 days conducting surveillance on the compound, studying the patterns of movement. The commander was cautious, rarely appearing outside, always surrounded by bodyguards when he did. But everyone had routines, and routines created vulnerabilities. Kira identified the vulnerability on the evening of the 3rd day. The commander had a habit of standing on the compound's roof at sunset, surveying his territory like a king overlooking his domain. He would spend 5 to 10 minutes up there, usually alone or with just one bodyguard. It was a small window of opportunity, but it was enough. Kira and Gray established a sniper position in a partially collapsed building 912 meters from the compound. The range was at the absolute limit of her rifle's effective envelope, but she had made longer shots in training. They waited for 2 days before the opportunity presented itself. On the evening of the 2nd day, the commander appeared on the roof, right on schedule. He was wearing traditional robes that billowed in the evening breeze, making him a challenging target. But Kira had learned to account for wind and movement, to time her shots for the brief moments when her target was relatively still. "Range 912 meters, Gray whispered. "Wind 4 miles per hour quartering from the left. Temp 71 degrees. Humidity 48%. Kira did the math. At this range, her bullet would drop nearly 13 feet, drift about 8 inches. The angle was slightly downward, which would affect the trajectory. The wind would push the bullet right, so she would aim left to compensate. All of this processed in seconds, her brain performing calculations that would have taken most people minutes to compute with a calculator. The commander stopped walking for a moment, his robes settling around him as he gazed out over the city. For 3 seconds, he was relatively motionless. Kira's breathing stopped. Her trigger finger increased pressure with infinite care. The rifle fired. 912 meters away, traveling at 2,700 feet per second, the bullet covered the distance in just over a second. It struck the commander in the upper chest, the impact spinning him around before he collapsed. The bodyguard reacted instantly, drawing a weapon, scanning for threats. But the shot had come from so far away that he had no idea where to look. By the time he figured out something was wrong, Kira and Gray were already packing their gear. 3 minutes later, they were out of the building, melting into the evening crowds on the street. Just 2 more people among thousands, completely anonymous. The mission was complete. Over the next 2 weeks, the impact of that single shot became clear. The enemy forces, suddenly leaderless, fragmented. Their coordinated attacks stopped. Their sophisticated ambushes disappeared. Small groups still operated in the sector, but the organized threat had been decapitated. American casualties dropped to nearly zero. But Kira's work was not done. With the main enemy force disrupted, she shifted her focus to providing overwatch for Ranger patrols, positioning herself where she could observe American movements and eliminate threats before they could materialize. 12 more confirmed kills over 14 days. Enemy fighters who thought they could take pot shots at American convoys. Militants who planted IEDs along patrol routes. Scouts who tried to re-establish observation posts. Each one eliminated before they could harm a single American soldier. The Rangers started calling her the Ghost, a guardian angel who appeared when soldiers were in trouble, who never missed, who saved dozens of lives and then vanished without a trace. Kira hated the nickname, but understood its necessity. The mystique, the legend, actually helped her mission. Enemy forces became cautious, paranoid about operating in the open. They knew there was a sniper out there somewhere, but they did not know where, when she would strike, or how to stop her. Fear was a weapon, and Kira wielded it effectively. Then everything changed. Day 31. Intelligence reported increased enemy communications, movement in the eastern sector. A new commander had arrived. Abu Rashid, al-Zahrani's deputy, more cautious than his predecessor, more paranoid, and carrying a deep desire for revenge. He brought with him 60 fresh fighters, new weapons, and a fresh tactical plan. The attacks resumed with brutal efficiency. Day 32, Patrol Base Phoenix came under sustained mortar fire, 82mm rounds pounding the compound for 3 hours. The barrage wounded 2 Rangers, damaged 3 vehicles, showed a level of coordination that had been absent since al-Zahrani's death. Kira watched from her overwatch position, counted the impact points, noted the pattern. "They are ranging us," she said to Gray, "testing our defenses, seeing how we respond." "Building a targeting package," Gray agreed. "This is reconnaissance by fire. They will hit us harder next time." Day 33 proved him right. Captain Brennan's team was conducting a routine patrol through Sector 4 when the ambush hit. Different tactics this time. The enemy did not try to pin them in a kill zone. Instead, they used a hit-and-run approach. Quick bursts of fire from multiple positions, then displacement before the Rangers could return effective fire. 1 Ranger killed, 3 wounded. By the time Kira could reposition to provide support, the enemy had already withdrawn. That night, she studied the after-action reports with growing concern. "Rashid is different from al-Zahrani," she said to Gray. "Smarter, more disciplined. He knows we took out his boss with a long-range shot, so he is making sure we cannot do it again." Gray poured coffee from his thermos, handed her a cup. They were in their quarters at Phoenix, exhausted from another 14-hour observation shift. "Everyone makes mistakes eventually," he said. "We just have to be patient and wait for him to make his." Kira wrapped her hands around the warm cup, let the heat seep into her fingers. "My grandfather used to say patience was the sniper's best weapon. More important than the rifle, more important than the scope." Hank was a smart man, learned that at Bastonia. "You never told me you knew him." Gray smiled. "Hank Vaughn was a legend when I was coming up. Met him once at a reunion, 1987. I was a young buck fresh from sniper school. He was an old man with stories. We talked for 3 hours. What did he say? He said the hardest part was not the shooting. It was carrying the weight after. He said every life stays with you, but so does every life you save. You carry both, and you learn to live with the balance. Kira was quiet for a moment. I'm at 73 now, confirmed kills. I know. Does it get easier? No, but you get better at carrying it. And Hank was right. You remember the ones you saved. Brennan's team, that medical convoy yesterday, they go home because you were watching. Patience proved difficult when the attacks intensified. Day 34, a medical convoy was ambushed on the mountain road leading to the field hospital. 3 ambulances, 2 Humvee escorts, 8 wounded soldiers being transported for treatment. The enemy hit them hard. The call came in at 1100 hours. Kira and Gray were at their quarters when the radio crackled to life. Any shadow element, this is Falcon 2-3. We are taking heavy fire on Route Silver. Multiple casualties, request immediate support. Kira grabbed her rifle. Gray grabbed his spotting scope and rangefinder. They were in their vehicle and moving within 90 seconds. The ambush site was a nightmare. A narrow mountain pass with cliffs on one side and a steep drop on the other. The enemy had disabled the lead vehicle with an RPG, blocking the road, then opened fire from elevated positions on both sides. When Kira and Gray arrived at a ridgeline overlooking the ambush site, the situation was critical. 2 medics were pinned down next to an overturned ambulance, trying to shield their patients from incoming fire. The Humvee gunners were returning fire, but they could not identify the enemy positions in the rocky terrain. I count at least 15 hostiles, Gray said, scanning through his spotting scope. Multiple fighting positions in the rocks. Range varies from 400 to 600 meters. Kira settled behind her rifle, began working through the targets systematically. The first was an enemy fighter with an RPG, preparing to fire at the remaining ambulances. She took him as he lifted the launcher to his shoulder. The rocket fell from his dead hands and tumbled down the cliff face. Her second target was coordinating the ambush, speaking into a radio while directing fire. He was partially concealed behind a boulder, only his head and shoulders visible. Kira put a round through his exposed chest. The radio went silent. She moved through the enemy positions like a reaper harvesting souls. A machine gunner who had been suppressing the convoy. A sniper who had wounded one of the Humvee drivers. 3 fighters preparing to rush the disabled ambulance. Each fell with mechanical precision. Kira's shots timed to catch them in moments of vulnerability. The enemy force realized they were being hunted. Some tried to flee, scrambling up the rocky slopes. Others went deeper into cover, trying to hide from the invisible killer. Neither strategy saved them. Kira tracked the fleeing fighters through her scope, leading their movement, firing when they thought they were safe. The ones who hid she marked and waited for. Patience rewarded when they eventually had to move or expose themselves to check on their fallen comrades. In 8 minutes, she had eliminated 14 attackers. The 15th had fled when he saw his comrades falling. Disappeared into the rocks before Kira could acquire him. But 14 was enough. The convoy was saved. The wounded soldiers secured. The road cleared for extraction. Kira safed her weapon, leaned back from the scope. Her hands were not shaking. Not yet. That would come later, in the quiet darkness of her quarters. 14 more lives on your conscience, Gray said quietly. He understood what she was feeling, had felt it himself in Desert Storm. You saved 8 wounded soldiers today, and the medics treating them. That is the balance Hank talked about. I know, Kira replied, does not make it easier. They displaced from the ridgeline, heading back to Phoenix. Behind them, the medical convoy continued its journey. 8 wounded soldiers who would live to see another day, because she had been watching. That night, intelligence reported a disturbing development. Enemy radio intercepts had picked up specific references to the American sniper. Rashid was not just aware of her existence, he was actively working to counter her. 3 enemy snipers had been identified, operating in the northern sector, all equipped with Dragunov rifles, all tasked with one mission: find the ghost and kill her. Tables turned, Gray said, reviewing the intelligence summary. Now we are the ones being hunted. Kira studied the map. noting the sectors where the enemy snipers had been reported. "Good," she said. "Predators make mistakes when they think they are hunting." She traced a finger across the map. 3 sectors, 3 enemy snipers. They will be watching Ranger patrols, waiting for me to provide overwatch. That is where they will expect me. So we give them something else to expect, Gray said. We hunt them first, before they hunt us. Day 36 dawned clear and hot. Kira and Gray established an observation post on a rooftop overlooking Sector 2. Intelligence suggested one of the enemy snipers was operating in this area. They waited. Sniper work was a chess match. Move and counter-move. Patience and discipline. The first one to make a mistake usually died. At 1400 hours, a Ranger patrol moved through the street below. Standard 4-vehicle convoy. Routine security sweep. Kira watched through her scope, scanning the buildings ahead of the patrol. There. 4th floor window. Slight movement of curtain. The angle was wrong for wind. Someone was in that room, watching the patrol. Possible enemy sniper, Kira whispered. 680 meters. Minaret at 2 o'clock. Gray acquired the position through his spotting scope. I see it. Curtain moved again. Someone is definitely there. They watched. Waited. The Ranger patrol passed beneath the window. Continued down the street. Nothing happened. The enemy sniper had discipline. He was not taking a shot at a hardened target. He was waiting for something easier, softer. 6 hours passed. Kira remained motionless behind her rifle. Gray beside her with the spotting scope. Both of them watching that window with the patience of stone. The sun moved across the sky. Shadows lengthened. Heat shimmered off the concrete. Kira controlled her breathing. 4 breaths per minute. Heart rate steady at 52 beats. She had learned to enter a meditative state during long observations, where time became elastic, where discomfort faded, where the only thing that mattered was the target. At 2000 hours, as the sun began to set, another patrol appeared, smaller this time, just 2 Humvees, moving slower. The curtain moved again. This time a rifle barrel appeared, the distinctive profile of a Dragunov SVD, 7.62 millimeter, effective range 800 meters. The enemy sniper was preparing to fire. Kira settled her crosshairs on the window. The target was partially concealed. She could see the rifle, part of a shoulder, but not enough for a clean shot. She waited. The Ranger patrol moved closer. The enemy sniper adjusted his position, leaning forward to get a better angle. For 2 seconds, his head and upper torso were visible in the window. Kira fired, 685 meters, through a window opening no larger than 18 inches. The enemy sniper jerked backward. His rifle clattered to the floor. The Ranger patrol below never knew how close they had come to losing someone. "Hit it," Gray confirmed. "Target down. Hell of a shot, kid." They displaced immediately. Standard operating procedure. Never stay in one position after engaging. 1 enemy sniper eliminated. 2 more out there somewhere. Day 38 brought the second encounter. Intelligence had pinpointed the likely operating area of enemy sniper number 2. Sector 5. Urban environment. Lots of buildings. Perfect terrain for a sniper. Kira and Gray moved into position before dawn, establishing a hide in an abandoned apartment building. 3rd floor. Good fields of fire in multiple directions. The enemy sniper revealed himself through his own cleverness. He had set up a mannequin in a window, dressed it in military-style clothing, positioned it to look like a sniper. The decoy was good, very good. To the untrained eye, it looked exactly like someone watching the street below. But Kira was not untrained. She studied the figure through her scope, noted the complete lack of movement, no adjustment of position, no shift of weight, no scanning with optics. The position was too perfect, too still. Real snipers moved. Micro adjustments, breathing, muscle fatigue. No human could maintain absolute stillness for hours. "Mannequin," she said to Gray. "2nd floor window at 4 o'clock. He is trying to draw us out." "Professional move," Gray said. "So where is he really?" Kira scanned the surrounding buildings, looking for the things most people would not notice. The sun was at a specific angle now, early morning, light coming from the east. She watched for reflections, the glint of glass, the flash of a scope lens catching sunlight. There, a glint of reflected sunlight. Third floor, different building. 40 meters to the left of the decoy, someone was up there, watching the mannequin, waiting for an American sniper to take the bait. Got him, Kira said. 712 meters. Third floor, southwest corner. She could not see him clearly. The position was too good, but she could see the faint reflection off his scope lens. The sun angle was perfect, just for these few minutes. The enemy sniper shifted slightly. The reflection disappeared, then reappeared. He was scanning, looking for threats, professional. This one knows what he is doing, Gray said. Textbook counter-sniper tactics. Decoy. Good hide position. Patience. Trained by someone who knew the craft, Kira agreed. She waited for the pattern to repeat. When the reflection appeared for the third time, she was ready. She aimed 6 inches below and 2 inches left of the reflection, where the shooter's head would be if he was in a standard prone position behind a scope. Calculated the offset for the angle, the distance, the morning thermals rising from sun-heated concrete. Squeezed the trigger. 712 meters through a partially concealed position. The reflection disappeared, did not return. Cannot confirm kill from here, Gray said, but I would bet money he is done. They waited another hour, watching, no movement from the position, no response from enemy forces. Later that day, local informants reported finding a dead fighter in that exact building. Dragunov rifle beside him. Single gunshot wound to the head. 2 down, 1 more to go. The third enemy sniper was different. Intelligence reports came back with an unusual detail. The third sniper was female, rare in enemy forces, which meant she was exceptional, good enough to earn respect in a male-dominated world. That made her dangerous. The report included a grainy photo, taken by a local informant, a woman in her mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, lean, athletic, carrying a rifle case through a market. Kira studied the photo for a long time. Somewhere out there was another woman who had chosen this path, who had learned the craft, who understood the weight. Intel says her name is Amira, Gray said, reading the report. Former Syrian army, trained in Russia, 30-plus confirmed kills, operated in Aleppo, Homs Raqqa, survived multiple counter-sniper operations. She is very good then. She is alive. In this business, that means very good. Day 40. Kira and Gray were providing overwatch for a dismounted patrol when she saw her, a woman in civilian clothing, standing near a street corner, watching the patrol with too much interest. Normal civilians avoided American patrols, went about their business, did not stare. This woman was studying them, analyzing their movements, their spacing, their procedures. Through her scope, Kira could see details others would miss. The way the woman stood, weight slightly forward, like someone ready to move quickly. The slight bulge under her loose jacket, probably a pistol, and the way her eyes tracked the patrol. Not with fear, not with curiosity, with professional assessment. I think we just found number 3, Kira said. She watched the woman for another 30 seconds, noted her features, the set of her shoulders, the controlled movements. This was a predator, disguised as prey. Before Kira could decide on a course of action, the woman glanced directly at Kira's position. For one moment, their eyes met across 700 meters. The woman smiled, slight, knowing. Then she disappeared into a building. She made us, Gray said. She wanted us to see her, Kira replied. That was a message. She knows we are hunting her, and she is hunting us. 2 hours later, the same patrol came under fire. Single shots, precise, professional. One ranger wounded, leg shot, not fatal but expertly placed. Calculated to wound, not kill, to slow the patrol, to create a rescue scenario. By the time Kira could reposition, the enemy sniper was gone. She is good, Gray said, knows when to engage, when to withdraw. Textbook tactics. It is exactly what I would have done, Kira said quietly. Over the next 3 days, the female sniper struck twice more. Day 41, a logistics convoy, single shot through the engine block of the lead truck, disabled the vehicle, forced a halt, created vulnerability, but no casualties. The sniper could have killed the driver, chose not to. Day 42, a foot patrol, shot through a radio antenna, cutting communications, Again could have killed, chose not to. She is sending a message, Kira said, studying the pattern, showing that she can hit us anytime, but not killing unnecessarily. Professional courtesy, Gray asked. Professional challenge. She wants me to know she is out there, that she is good, that this is between us now. That night, Kira sat alone with her rifle, field stripping it, cleaning it, thinking about the woman she would have to kill. Another sniper, another guardian, someone who understood the craft, the discipline, the weight. But on the opposite side, Gray found her at midnight, saw the expression on her face. You are thinking about her. She has not killed anyone. 3 opportunities, 3 shots that could have been kills. She chose not to. That does not make her less dangerous. I know, but it makes her, Kira paused, human. She is still hunting our people, Kira. If you do not stop her, she will kill Americans eventually. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. I know that too. Gray sat beside her. Your grandfather told me about a German sniper at Bastogne. Man was a professional. Left signs that he respected Hank's work. Never took cheap shots. Always clean kills, always military targets. Hank said killing him was the hardest shot he ever made, not because of distance or conditions, but because he respected the man. What did Grandpa say about it after? He said respect does not change necessity. Sometimes you have to kill people you respect, because the alternative is letting them kill people you love. Day 43. Intelligence provided a possible location, a neighborhood in Sector 7. Reports of a woman matching the description seen entering and exiting a specific building. Kira studied the intelligence, then studied the map. Something felt wrong. The location was too obvious, too convenient. The reports too detailed. It is a trap, she said to Gray. She knows we are hunting her, so she is hunting us. How do you want to play it? Kira thought for a long moment, then smiled. We give her what she wants, but not the way she expects. They set up the counter trap carefully. Gray positioned a thermal decoy in a window, a heated blanket shaped roughly like a person, arranged to emit heat signatures similar to a human body. Set it up in an obvious sniper hide, the kind of position an amateur would choose. Good field of fire, but predictable. Kira established herself 2 buildings away. Different elevation, different angle, watching the approaches to the decoy position. If the enemy sniper was professional, she would not rush. She would observe, wait for confirmation, then engage from a position that gave her both the shot and an escape route. They waited 4 hours. The sun climbed, heat built, sweat soaked through Kira's shirt. She did not move. At 1500 hours, Kira saw movement. A woman, mid-30s, moving between buildings with tactical precision, using cover, checking angles. Professional tradecraft. She was flanking the decoy position, working her way around to get a side angle, the same maneuver Kira would have used. Kira tracked her through the scope. The woman disappeared into a building 640 meters away. 3rd floor, east-facing window, perfect position to engage the decoy. Kira settled her crosshairs on that window, waited. 5 minutes passed, then a rifle barrel appeared, the distinctive profile of a Dragunov. The enemy sniper was taking her time, observing the decoy through her scope, looking for signs of life, movement, breathing, the slight shimmer of heat from a living body. Kira could see her now, partially visible behind the rifle. Professional stance, good positioning, everything by the book. The woman was good. Everything about her setup spoke of training, experience, survival. The enemy sniper seemed satisfied. The rifle steadied, preparing to fire at the decoy. Kira's finger rested on the trigger. For one moment, she hesitated. This was another sniper, another woman who had chosen this path, who understood the craft, who carried the weight. Respect did not change necessity. Kira fired, 640 meters, through the window, center mass on a partially concealed target. The enemy sniper fell backward, her rifle clattering to the floor. Kira kept her scope on the window, watching for movement, confirming the kill. Nothing. Target down, Gray confirmed through his spotting scope. Clean hit. They displaced immediately, heading to extract. But this time Kira did not feel the usual emptiness after a kill. She felt something else. Sadness. Later that day, friendly forces secured the building, found the enemy sniper, female, mid-30s, Dragunov SVD rifle, 31 tally marks carved into the wooden stock, 31 kills. She had been very good. The soldiers also found a small notebook in her pocket, personal items, a photo of 2 children, a letter written in Arabic. The translator read it aloud, a letter to her children, explaining why she fought, telling them she loved them, asking them to remember her. Kira listened to the translation, felt the weight settle deeper. The enemy sniper had not been a faceless threat. She had been a mother, a guardian, someone fighting for her own reasons. That night, Kira sat alone in her quarters, staring at the tally marks she kept in her private notebook. 73 confirmed kills now. Each mark represented a choice, a life taken to save others. But this one felt different. Gray found her an hour later, saw the notebook, the expression on her face, understood without words. "You carry it well," he said quietly, "but I know it is heavy." She had children, Gray, 2 of them. There was a photo. "I know. Does it get easier?" "No, but you learn to live with it because the alternative is worse." "What is the alternative?" "Not being there when someone needs you, not taking the shot, and watching Americans die because you hesitated." Kira closed the notebook. She was good, professional, disciplined, everything a sniper should be. "And she was trying to kill our people," Gray said gently. "Your respect for her does not change that. Hank respected that German at Bastogne, still made the shot, because it had to be made." "I know. The weight is heavy, Kira, but it is necessary, because someone has to carry it." Day 42 brought new intelligence. Major intelligence. Rashid was planning a massive attack. Target patrol base Phoenix. Estimated force 80 to 90 fighters. Heavy weapons. Vehicle-borne IEDs. Coordinated assault. Timeline 72 hours. Colonel Garrison called an emergency meeting. "The situation is deteriorating," he said without preamble. His face showed strain. Late nights and too much coffee. "Rashid has reconstituted his forces. He is hitting us harder than before. We need to disrupt their operations before this escalates into something we cannot control." Major Aldridge pulled up aerial photos of an enemy compound. Eastern suburbs. Heavily fortified. Guard towers. High walls. This is Rashid's command post. But here is the problem. He does not expose himself like al-Zawrani did. He stays inside. Runs operations from a bunker. Only moves at night with heavy security. Kira studied the photos. A direct assault would cost dozens of American lives. Maybe succeed, maybe not. The cost would be high either way. "What if we do not assault it?" she said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "Explain," Garrison said. "A frontal assault plays to their strengths. They are dug in, prepared. They know we are coming. But what if instead of attacking the compound, we make them come to us?" "How?" Kira stood. Walked to the map on the wall. "Phoenix is the most important American position in this sector. Rashid knows that. He wants to overrun it. Make a propaganda victory. Show he can defeat us." She traced the approach routes with her finger. "We give him a target he cannot resist. Make it look like we are vulnerable. Overextended. Pull forces out in obvious convoys. Make it look like we are reinforcing other positions. Leave Phoenix looking weak." "You want to use Phoenix as bait?" Garrison asked. "Not bait, a lure, with sufficient force to defend itself, but positioned to appear vulnerable. Rashid will see an opportunity to inflict massive casualties, boost his credibility with his fighters. Avenge al-Zawrani. He will commit resources to the attack, including possibly showing up himself to oversee the operation. And that is when we engage him," Garrison said, understanding dawning. "That is when we engage everyone. We fortify Phoenix with more strength than it appears to have. Additional troops in underground bunkers. Heavy weapons prepositioned, but kept concealed. Establish multiple sniper positions around the perimeter. When they attack, they walk into a perfectly prepared defensive position." Major Aldridge leaned forward. "It is risky. If they see through the deception, they will not commit. Or worse, they hit us somewhere else while we are concentrated at Phoenix." "They will commit," Kira said with quiet confidence. "Rashid is aggressive. He is trying to prove himself after Al-Zarani's death. His fighters are expecting a victory. He is under pressure from his higher leadership. Give him what looks like an easy target, and he will not be able to resist. The room was silent as the commanders considered the plan. I like it, Garrison said finally, but execution has to be perfect. If they suspect it is a trap, this whole thing falls apart. Then we make it convincing, Kira said. We run the deception like a real withdrawal, actual convoys leaving, personnel visibly reduced. But at night we bring people back, underground, hidden. By the time they hit us, we will have triple the forces they expect. The plan was approved. Over the next 48 hours, the deception unfolded. Convoys left Phoenix in daylight, heading to other bases, visible to enemy observers. At night, helicopters brought troops back, landing inside the compound. Soldiers moved directly into underground bunkers, hidden from aerial observation. Army engineers worked around the clock, reinforcing Phoenix with additional troops hidden in underground bunkers. Heavy weapons prepositioned but kept concealed. Machine gun nests camouflaged. Mortar positions dug in with overhead cover. Kira established 4 sniper hides around the perimeter, each one carefully camouflaged, each one offering overlapping fields of fire. She walked Gray through each position, showed him the range cards, the escape routes, the dead space that needed to be covered by other teams. She would not be alone this time. Colonel Garrison had brought in 2 additional sniper teams, 6 shooters total, including Kira. They could cover every approach to Phoenix. On the afternoon of day 44, Kira gathered all the sniper teams for final briefing. 6 men sat around the table, professional operators, experienced, but looking at her with curiosity. The ghost, the legend. Remember, Kira told them, priority targets are command and control personnel, heavy weapons operators, anyone with communications equipment. We cut off their head and their ability to coordinate. Once they are in disarray, the base defenders can handle the rest. She pointed to sectors on the map. Shadow 2, you have the northern approach. Focus on any vehicle-borne threats in mortar positions. Shadow 3, eastern approach. Same priorities. I will take primary hide on the west with overwatch of the entire kill zone. What about Rashid himself? One of the snipers asked. If he shows up, Kira met his eyes. If he shows up, he is mine. I have been tracking him for 2 months. I know his patterns, his habits, his likely position in an assault. If he is there, I will find him. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait. For 3 days, nothing happened. Phoenix operated normally, conducting patrols, establishing presence, becoming a routine feature of the sector. Enemy scouts observed it, undoubtedly reporting back to Rashid about this American position, counting the visible personnel, noting the apparent weakness. Day 45, midnight, 2 hours before the planned attack window. Kira was in her primary sniper hide, a warehouse 720 meters from Phoenix. She had been there for 14 hours, watching, waiting. Gray was beside her, calling wind and temperature every 30 minutes, keeping her sharp with coffee and conversation. Coffee, he offered. Thanks. The coffee was cold, strong, perfect for staying alert through the long night. Kira pressed her eye to the scope, scanned the approaches to Phoenix one more time. Nothing yet, but the radio chatter had been increasing. Enemy communications picking up. Movement reported in multiple sectors. Then at midnight, exactly intelligence intercepted an enemy transmission. The radio operator's voice came through on the command net, translating in real time. Enemy commander speaking. Voice pattern matches Rashid's profile. He is saying, wait, translating now. A pause, then the translation. He is saying, the Americans think we do not know their tricks. The ghost watches. She waits in the shadows for us. But we will attack anyway. Allah rewards the faithful. We will overwhelm them with numbers. Martyrdom is glorious. We strike in 2 hours. Silence on the command net. Then Gray's voice. Quiet, serious. Kira, they know it is a trap. She looked at him, saw the concern in his eyes. But they are coming anyway, she said. The implications settled over them like a weight. This was not going to be a careful tactical assault. This was not going to be professional soldiers trying to minimize casualties. This was going to be a fanatic wave. Overwhelming force driven by ideology, not strategy. They are not trying to win tactically, Gray said. They are trying to win symbolically. Kill as many Americans as possible. Create propaganda, even if they all die doing it. Kira Keter radio. All shadow elements, this is Shadow 1-7. Enemy has intel on our defensive posture but is attacking anyway. Expect suicide assault. Overwhelming numbers. Fanatic tactics. Stick to target priorities. Stay disciplined. We make every shot count. At 0100 hours, new intelligence came through. Force estimate revised upward. Not 80 fighters, 90 plus. They were bringing everything. Kira adjusted her position slightly. Checked her rifle, 30 rounds in the magazine. 4 spare magazines, 150 rounds total. If she had to engage 90 targets, she would need every round. In perfect accuracy. Gray did final calculations. Wind, temperature, humidity. Gave her updated range cards for each sector. Wind 3 miles per hour east to west. Temp 68 degrees. Humidity 45%. You are good on all primary targets. At 0200 hours, the enemy movement began in earnest. Through her thermal scope, Kira could see them. Heat signatures moving through the darkness. Dozens of them, massing in assault positions, not trying to hide, not using stealth, just coming. Inexorable as a tide. Kira's heart rate remained steady, 52 beats per minute, her breathing calm, 4 breaths per minute. This was what she had trained for, what she had prepared for. When the Rangers whispered for a miracle in the darkness, she would answer. With precision, with skill, with purpose, the first mortar round whistled overhead. Impacted inside Phoenix with a flash of orange light. The battle had begun. The mortars fell like thunder from a cloudless night. 82 millimeter rounds. High explosive. 43 of them in the first 15 minutes. Each one designed to kill anyone caught in the open. But the Rangers were not in the open. They were in reinforced bunkers. Underground positions, hardened shelters that could withstand indirect fire, exactly as planned. Kira watched through her scope as the compound erupted in fire and smoke, counted the impacts, noted the pattern. 3 mortar teams, positioned at different angles to maximize coverage. Shadow elements, this is Shadow 1-7, she transmitted on the command net. Weapons free on my mark. Priority targets, heavy weapons, then command elements. Through her thermal scope, she could see the mortar crews. White-hot signatures against the cool darkness. 680 meters. Southwest position. 3 men per team. Gunner, assistant gunner, ammo bearer, standard crew-served weapon employment. Kira settled her crosshairs on the first gunner. The man was loading another round, focused on his task, unaware that death was watching him through a magnified optic from nearly 700 meters away. Wind 3 miles per hour east to west, Gray said quietly. Temp 68 degrees, humidity 45%. You are good. Kira adjusted her point of aim. 6 inches left to compensate for wind drift. Her breathing slowed, 4 breaths per minute, heart rate steady at 52 beats. The world narrowed to the space between heartbeats. She fired. Through the thermal scope, she watched the gunner collapse. White-hot signature suddenly horizontal. 2 seconds later, the assistant gunner turned toward his fallen comrade. Kira's second shot took him in the chest. The ammo bearer tried to run. Her third shot dropped him after 5 steps. 8 seconds. 3 kills. 1 mortar team eliminated. Shadow 2 engage mortar position at grid November Victor 4-7, she transmitted. Shadow 3 grid November Victor 5-2. The other sniper teams opened fire. Within 2 minutes, all 3 mortar teams were silenced. 9 enemy fighters dead. The barrage stopped. Silence fell across the battlefield. Heavy, expectant. Kira scanned through her scope, searching for the next phase. She did not have to wait long. At 02:15 hours, the assault began. 30 fighters advancing in 3 columns. Professional fire and maneuver tactics, 1 element providing covering fire while another bounded forward. Then switching roles, exactly how American infantry operated. Rashid had trained them well, but training only worked when your enemy played by expected rules. Kira did not play by rules. She identified the priority targets immediately. Team leaders, the men with radios, the ones coordinating movement and fire. 4 of them visible through her thermal scope. "I have command elements," she transmitted, engaging. The first team leader was coordinating his elements' advance, speaking into his radio, hand signals to his men. Kira put a round through his chest at 540 meters. The second leader was 70 meters to the right, moving between covered positions, professional, disciplined. He made it 6 steps before Kira's bullet found him. The third leader tried to take command, shouting orders, rallying his men. Kira silenced him permanently. A fourth fighter grabbed the fallen radio, attempting to maintain communications with higher command. He lasted exactly as long as it took Kira to chamber another round and acquire the target. 4 kills in 90 seconds. The enemy assault stalled. Without leaders, without coordination, the fighters went to ground. Some tried to continue advancing, but they were individuals now, not a cohesive unit. The Ranger defenders opened up with M240 machine guns, suppressive fire that pinned the enemy in place. Kira shifted her aim, looking for the next threat. She found it at 0226, a technical vehicle, pickup truck with a heavy machine gun mounted in the bed, racing toward Phoenix at high speed. But it was not the machine gun that concerned her. Through her thermal scope, she could see the heat signature from the truck bed, not just the gun, something else, something radiating intense heat. Explosives. A vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. The driver was hunched low behind the windshield. Armored glass, metal plating welded to the doorframe. Professional construction. The truck was accelerating, 40 miles per hour, heading straight for Phoenix's main gate. If it reached the gate, the explosion would kill everyone in the compound. Kira tracked the vehicle through her scope, calculating lead time, wind speed, target velocity, 475 meters. Moving target, small window of opportunity. The driver was protected by armor, but armor had gaps, weak points, places where plates met, where vision slits were cut. She could see it, left side, driver's shoulder position, a gap no larger than 4 inches. The truck hit a bump, bounced slightly. Kira adjusted her aim, leading the target, accounting for movement. She fired, 475 meters. Target moving 40 miles per hour. 4-inch gap in armor. The bullet found its mark. The driver jerked, slumped. The truck veered hard left. It crashed into a drainage ditch 50 meters short of the gate. The impact triggered the explosives. The fireball lit up the night sky. The concussion wave rattled windows across the compound, but no Americans were in the blast radius. Shadow 17, this is base actual. Captain Brennan's voice came over the radio. That shot just saved 30 lives. Gate crew is intact. Kira did not respond, was already scanning for the next threat. At 0227, the enemy adapted. Smoke grenades detonated across the battlefield, 15 of them, creating a gray wall between the enemy and American positions. Standard infantry tactic, obscure the enemy's vision, advance under concealment. It would have worked against normal defensive positions, but Kira was not using normal optics. She switched from thermal to white-hot mode. The smoke became transparent. Enemy fighters appeared as bright white signatures moving through the gray haze, 15 of them, advancing in a loose line, thinking they were invisible. Shadow elements switched to thermal, Kira transmitted. I have multiple targets in the smoke, engaging. Through the white-hot thermal image, the enemy fighters were exposed, every movement visible, every position compromised. Kira began the systematic elimination. First target, 520 meters, moving slowly. Rifle at the ready. She fired. The white signature collapsed. Second target, 45 meters to the right. Crouched low, trying to use the smoke as cover. The thermal scope saw through his concealment. Kira's bullet found him anyway. Gray called targets rapid fire. Left 30 meters, 2 moving together. Kira acquired, fired twice. Both targets down. Next single mover 45 meters, your right. Kira shifted, fired. Another kill. 3 clustered behind rock at 520. She worked through them methodically. First target, adjust. Second target, adjust. Third target, all down. The other shadow teams engaged the flanks. More white signatures collapsing in the thermal image. In 13 minutes, the second assault wave was broken. 15 enemy casualties. The smoke cleared. Kira scanned the battlefield, looking for the next phase. At 0241, she found it, 840 meters behind the enemy lines. A heat signature different from the others. Larger, vehicular, an SUV with armored plating. Someone exited the vehicle. Through the thermal scope, Kira could not make out facial features, but she could see height, build, the way the figure moved, confident, authoritative, gesturing to subordinates. Intel photos had provided detailed descriptions of Abu Rashid, 6 feet tall, athletic build, distinctive mannerisms. This matched. The figure was coordinating via radio, directing the attack, making tactical decisions. This was him, the enemy commander, the man responsible for killing American soldiers. The target Kira had been hunting for 2 weeks, and he was in the open. 840 meters away, the most important target, but the most difficult shot. Maximum effective range for her M110. Darkness, target partially concealed behind the vehicle, constantly moving. And if she took the shot, the muzzle flash would give away her position. Enemy forces would mortar her hide within 60 seconds. Kira, Gray said quietly, you take that shot, they will know where we are. They will drop everything they have on this position. I know. We will have maybe 60 seconds to displace before the mortars hit. I know. Gray was silent for a moment, then nodded. Your call, kid. I am with you. Kira studied the target through her scope, watching his patterns of movement. Rashid was cautious. He stayed behind the vehicle most of the time, only exposing himself for brief moments. Every 2 to 3 minutes, he would step out from behind the SUV, raise binoculars to his eyes, scan the battlefield, then duck back behind cover. Kira waited for the pattern to repeat. Her breathing slowed to nothing. Heart rate dropped to 48 beats per minute. The world narrowed to a tunnel. At the end of that tunnel was a man who needed to die. Not for revenge, not for glory, but because 60 American soldiers were fighting for their lives. And this man was directing the forces trying to kill them. 840 meters, bullet drop 11.2 feet, wind 5 miles per hour left to right, drift compensation 9 inches, darkness, no visual confirmation of precise aim point, only the thermal signature. Target height 5 feet 10 inches. Thermal bloom made him appear slightly larger than actual size. Kira aimed low, compensating for the thermal distortion. At 02:43 hours and 30 seconds, Rashid emerged from behind the vehicle, raised his binoculars, focused on Phoenix. 2 seconds of relative stillness. Kira's trigger finger increased pressure with infinite care. The rifle fired, 840 meters. Bullet travel time 1.1 seconds. Through the thermal scope, Kira watched the heat signature jerk. Fall. The bright white form collapsed behind the vehicle. Hit, Gray said. I cannot confirm kill, but he is down. Enemy radio traffic erupted, panicked voices shouting in Arabic. Kira was already moving, grabbing her rifle. Gray grabbed the spotting scope. They ran for the secondary exit, a pre-planned escape route through the back of the warehouse. 45 seconds after Kira's shot, the first mortar round impacted their primary position. Then another and another. The warehouse shook. Concrete dust filled the air. Part of the roof collapsed, but Kira and Gray were already out, sprinting through an alley, heading for the secondary hide 6 blocks away. They reached it 90 seconds after the mortars started falling. Behind them, the warehouse took 17 direct hits. The structure partially collapsed. If they had stayed, they would be dead. Told you, Gray said, breathing hard. Good thing you listen sometimes. Kira set up in the new position. 620 meters from Phoenix. Different angle, different elevation. She pressed her eye to the scope, scanned the battlefield. The enemy forces were in chaos. Their commander was down. Their coordinated assault had been shattered. Their heavy weapons eliminated. Some tried to retreat. Others continued attacking without unified direction. It was no longer a battle. It was a rout. Kira engaged targets of opportunity. Enemy fighters trying to regroup. Militants attempting to drag weapons away. Scouts trying to establish new positions. 8 more confirmed kills over the next 30 minutes. The other shadow teams continued their work. 13 additional enemy eliminated. Ranger defenders with crew-served weapons added 10 more. At 03:15 hours, the last enemy fighters fled into the darkness. 75 minutes of sustained combat. Total enemy killed in action, 47 fighters. American casualties, 0. The silence that followed was profound. Kira saved her weapon, ejected the magazine, locked the bolt back. Her hands were steady. They always were when she was shooting. But now in the quiet after the storm, she could feel them starting to shake. Grace saw it, did not say anything, just sat beside her. They waited for the quick reaction force to secure the perimeter, for the all-clear signal. At 03:30 hours, Kira extracted from the secondary hide, walked through the pre-dawn darkness to Phoenix. Captain Brennan met her at the gate. His face showed exhaustion and relief in equal measure. "Vaughn," he said, "I do not have words. You saved every man here. Just doing the job, sir." "No, you did a hell of a lot more than that." At 05:15, a helicopter landed. Colonel Garrison emerged. He found Kira at the operations center, reviewing the after-action data. "Staff Sergeant Vaughn," he said formally, "preliminary count is 21 confirmed kills in 75 minutes of sustained combat. 0 friendly casualties. I am putting you in for the Silver Star. Sir, the other shadow teams will also be recognized, but you made the 840-meter shot that broke them. That was you." Kira nodded, too tired to argue. Garrison studied her for a moment. "Get some rest, Vaughn. You have earned it." She walked back to her quarters as the sun began to rise, sat on her cot, removed the magazine from her M110, ejected the chambered round, reached into her dump pouch, pulled out the expended brass casings, counted them, 21 shells. Each one represented a human life, ended by her hand, by her decision, by her skill. She knew they were enemy combatants, knew they had been trying to kill American soldiers, knew her actions had been necessary, justified, righteous even. But she had still taken 21 human lives in one night. Mothers' sons, someone's brother or father or friend. Men who had woken up yesterday morning not knowing they would never see another sunrise. The shaking that had started in her hands spread to her arms, her shoulders. Silent tears began to fall. She did not hear Gray enter, but suddenly he was there, sitting beside her on the cot. He did not speak, did not offer platitudes, just sat there, a quiet presence. Finally, Kira found her voice. "I just killed 21 people in 75 minutes, Gray." Her voice cracked. "I know they were enemy. I know they were trying to kill us. I know it was necessary. But I still took 21 human lives tonight." Gray was quiet for a long moment. "Your grandfather Hank wrote me a letter after Bastogne," he said finally. "I was just a kid, reading his war stories. He said something I never forgot. He said, 'Every life I take weighs on me like a stone in my pack. But every brother who comes home alive makes the weight worth carrying.'" Gray looked at her directly. "You saved over 200 Americans tonight, Kira. That is what matters. Does the weight ever get lighter? No, but you get stronger, and you remember why you carry it. What if I forget? You will not, because you feel it, and people who feel it do not forget." Kira wiped her eyes, nodded. The weight was heavy, but it was necessary, because someone had to be the guardian. Someone had to answer when the Rangers whispered for a miracle in the darkness, and she had chosen to be that someone. 6 months later, the ceremony took place at Fort Bragg. 300 people in attendance, full-dress uniforms, formal protocol. Kira stood at attention while Colonel Garrison read the Silver Star citation for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action against an armed enemy. Staff Sergeant Kira Vaughn distinguished herself through exceptional courage and skill during combat operations in the northern sector. Over a period of 6 months, Staff Sergeant Vaughn eliminated 197 confirmed enemy combatants. Her precision marksmanship and tactical acumen directly saved 83 American lives. On the night of the Phoenix engagement, Staff Sergeant Vaughn's actions exemplified the highest standards of military service. Her elimination of enemy leadership at a range of 840 meters broke a coordinated assault by overwhelming enemy forces, resulting in 0 friendly casualties. Staff Sergeant Vaughn's actions reflect great credit upon herself, her unit, and the United States Army. The medal was pinned to her uniform. She saluted. The audience rose in standing ovation. Rangers she had saved. special forces operators who had heard the stories, fellow snipers who understood the weight. After the ceremony, Captain Brennan approached, his wife Claire and daughter Madeline with him. Claire was crying. "You saved my husband, twice. Maddie almost lost her daddy. I will never. Thank you does not cover it." 6-year-old Madeline held out a piece of paper, a crayon drawing, a woman with wings, holding a rifle. "The guardian angel," Madeline said. "That is you." Kira knelt down to the girl's level, her throat tight. "I am no angel, sweetheart. I just did my job. Daddy says you are the reason he came home. That makes you an angel." Brennan put his hand on Kira's shoulder. "My daughter still has a father because you were watching. That is everything, Vaughn." Kira hugged Madeline, let the tears flow. This was why she carried the weight, for moments like this. 1 month later, Kira reported for duty at Fort Benning, the U.S. Army Sniper School, where she had trained, where she had learned her craft. Now she would teach others. Gray was already there, waiting for her, still her partner after 35 years of service. "Ready to make more guardians?" he asked with a grin. "Ready as I will ever be." Their first class had 24 students, 3 of them female. Kira taught the fundamentals: breathing, trigger control, range estimation, wind reading. But more than that, she taught the mindset. Sniping is not about killing, she told them on the first day. It is about saving lives by being so precise, so skilled that the enemy never gets a chance to threaten our people. Every round you fire down range has a purpose. That purpose is to bring your brothers and sisters home alive. After class, one of the female students approached. Private First Class Devin Ashford, 22 years old, from Tennessee. "Staff Sergeant Vaughn, can I ask something personal?" "Go ahead, Private." "Why did you become a sniper? Most women choose other specialties." Kira looked at the photo on her desk. Her grandfather Hank, in his World War II uniform, standing beside his Springfield M1903 rifle. "My grandfather said snipers are guardians," Kira said. "We watch over people who cannot watch over themselves. We operate in the shadows so our brothers and sisters can walk in the light. When someone whispers a prayer for a miracle in their darkest moment, we answer that prayer with precision, with skill, with purpose. That is the job." Devin nodded slowly. "Will you teach me to be that good, to be a guardian?" Kira smiled. "Already am, Private. Already am." They walked together toward the rifle range. Behind them, the American flag snapped in the wind. That evening, after the students had gone, Kira stood alone on the 1,000-yard line. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and gold. She thought about the faces, 197 of them. Enemy combatants, men she had killed. She would carry them forever, their weight a constant presence. But she also thought about the other faces. 83 American soldiers who had gone home alive, wives who still had husbands, children who still had fathers, mothers who still had sons, because she had been watching. Because when they whispered for a miracle in the darkness, she had answered, with her rifle, with her skill, with her unwavering purpose. That was the burden she carried. That was the honor she bore. That was what it meant to be a sniper, a guardian in the shadows, an angel with a rifle, forever watching over those who could not watch over themselves. The sun dipped below the horizon. Kira turned and walked back toward the barracks. Tomorrow she would train the next generation. Tomorrow she would create more guardians. Tomorrow she would pass on the legacy her grandfather had given her. The legacy of precision, of skill, of sacrifice. The legacy of answering when someone whispers for a miracle. One shot at a time. One life saved at a time. One guardian at a time. Forever, the end.